I think that I think that we're seeing a shift. I believe I see it in my own movement, in my own organization or structure of which I'm part of, which is becoming way more vision-led than it ever was in the past. The vision being to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence in order to be able to create a world that works for all. And the application of awakening and creating a world that works for all should go hand in hand. One should be the consciousness changer, and one should be the action and the activity that is taken. And so there is no reason for anyone on this planet or on this plane at this particular time to go without food, to go without water, to go without technology, to go without medical care. There's no reason why we have budgets that support violence instead of supporting peace and love. And so every step that we can take and everything we can do, from what I'm hearing you say, is daily to make sure that we keep that vision ahead of us, and that we give up this idea that the little minutia that exists in our life, the little brambles and stickers that we run into, such as the interpersonal justifications and ideas and items like that, we let them fall by the wayside, and we live our life with the vision that we're going to create a world that works for all. I was wondering, Swami G and Sadhvi, if you have any input in this from your side of the world.
Absolutely. First of all, it's so wonderful, Marianne, that you have taken this step. And
thank you.
Congratulations, and much love and many prayers from India. And if there is anything that we can possibly do to support you in any more specific way than just prayers, please let us know.
Thank you so much.
I think also, as you were talking about the myth of there not being enough, the myth of this shortage that creates a situation where all of us are scampering around to collect and collect, gather and gather, whether it's money, whether it's material possessions, whether it's people around us, whatever it is that we think that we need through the myth of scarcity, is something that is so tragic, and it is creating, as Marianne was talking about, this financialization or, dollarization to every interaction. And for me, one of the things that I think about with this is that, the universe has been around for so long, and it's been created in such a beautiful and perfect way that every part of nature and every being and every creature knows exactly what it's supposed to do and exactly when it's supposed to do it. And it's only if they missed somehow those signals would there ever be any problem, and yet they never do. You think for a moment, for example, about a caterpillar, and it's running around as a caterpillar on the ground, and at some point it gets a call from the universe that says, build a cocoon. And it does. And at some point in the cocoon it gets a call that says, break this cocoon, you can fly. And it does. And the idea that somehow that voice and that call and that knowledge and that wisdom and that understanding could possibly be given to a caterpillar and not to us is just absurd. But if when the caterpillar got the call that said, build a cocoon, he was so busy bemoaning the fact that, he only had 16 legs and the millipede had 1,000 legs, and so he completely missed the call, or he decided, oh my God, what do you mean I can't go up in a tree? I've spent my whole life on the ground. And so didn't build the cocoon. That's the only way that the problem would take place. And so one of the things that we really try to emphasize here to people, and it's something that I try to work on personally, is just having faith in the universe, that you wouldn't have been put here if there wasn't going to be enough. And whoever's here, whatever there is enough for us. And therefore, all we have to do is be still internally enough to hear that voice and then ask the question that Marianne said of, what can I do? How can I serve? What next? And then the rest just falls into place.
Thank you, Sadhvi. Marianne, we're coming up toward the end of the panel, and we're all so proud and delighted. You announced your campaign last Sunday, October 20th, and maybe it would be good now if you could just take a few moments and discuss we have quite a lot of people on our call today, and many more will be picking up the recording afterward. It would be really great if you could give us a snapshot of what's going on next for you and how this very supportive community could be of service to that work.
Thank you so much for that. And the first way I would answer to those on the call as well as those listening is through your prayers and your best wishes and the emanations of your heart. Because in taking on an actual political campaign, we all know that I'm entering into a very toxic world, a very dysfunctional world, and a world that has a kind of emotional and psychological brutality associated with it, for all the reasons that we said before, dominated by all the thought forms that we are, in our own lives and our own work, seeking to replace. And my involvement as a candidate going into taking it all the way to, like, okay, we have to run for office here, is, in my mind, as well as in the mind of many who are taking their work from a spiritual perspective into a political one, is because if we are on this earth to be a light, then that means we can't just avoid areas of perceived darkness. Elizabeth Kucinich said we cannot transform what we refuse to engage. And that's the temptation of our world, to just talk about it without engaging it where it really, gets uncomfortable. And yet, the magic is outside the comfort zone in life, and that's for us as much as it is true for anyone. So we know that it is on the level of thought that the greatest work happens. So right there, you're meditating, you're throwing light, you're sending love to me, to this endeavor, to all who are involved, to the political system. That's the alpha and the omega for me, to know that, very serious practitioners of the inner work are holding this in your hearts and in your prayers, and not just observing it from the outside, but really standing within the light of potential and possibility. That is huge. Beyond that, very important in the outer world is, if you will, look at the website, MarianneForCongress.com. Look at it, see how you feel about it, see how it resonates with you, and if it does resonate with you, send it out to everybody you know. Put it on your social media, put it on your mailing lists, endorse it to your friends, to your colleagues. One of the main external issue that I'm dealing with in this campaign is the undue influence of money on our political system, because we're in the process of dismantling democracy itself here. Because when only those with financial leverage can wield political influence, then that means that those who have no financial leverage do not any longer wield political influence. So just forget the democracy, all are created equal thing at that point. Particularly children. Children don't work, so they don't wield financial power. But and so I feel that this undue influence of money is really the cancer underlying all the cancers. The corruption of our food supply, the desecration of our environment, high incarceration rate, all these areas of unnecessary human suffering, and potentially much more unnecessary human suffering, are derived on the external plane from that issue of money in politics. But Martin Luther King talked about how the desegregation of the American South was the externalized goal of the civil rights movement, but the internal goal was the establishment of the beloved community. So what really makes me happy in talking to you about it, and thank you for the opportunity, is that I know the people on this call and listening to this call understand the parallel track and understand that each one is as important as the other. So I also feel, by the way, to talk about undue influence of money, part of the lockout by which the average American really is locked out of the political system is because it is so obscenely expensive. And that's why we have to have a constitutional amendment to get the money out of politics. Until then, it is very expensive. And my dream, my feeling, if everybody in the transformational community, all the people that we know who would support the values of this campaign and see that there is value to having a platform such as this would send $5 into the campaign. We represent so many numbers that if everybody listening to this just says, you know, I like the ideas. I like the idea that somebody's articulating things this way, and sends me $5 for the campaign, which you can see on the donate tab on MarianneForCongress.com, then I could actually be competitive in this race on an external level. And I think that would be really a contribution to our society, hopefully, that we would come together and create a platform that I know I will certainly dedicate myself to do everything I can to make it something all of us can be proud of.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.
And also continue to work for the revision of this insanity having to do with money in politics. Yes, we should do our part and support all we can, but those laws have to change, or the system never will.
Right, and that will not happen unless you actually have enough people in the government.
In the system,
you know, it can't just be from the periphery. It can't just be from online petitions. We actually have to have more people actually in Congress, actually in the government, who are standing for that idea.
Couldn't agree more. So here we are. We're getting ready to wind up and start the next panel, and I wonder, Ken, I think I'm going to leave it to you to thank our guest today and wind up with just a couple of remarks, and then I'll come back for a moment and announce the next panel.
Thank you very much. And I do thank our guests, specifically Swami G and Sadhvi and Marianne Williamson. And Marianne, I know nothing but the greatest for you, and I think that one of the things that we all can do in order to be able to create a world that works for all is to begin to be very selective about our votes. So I would suggest everyone go to MarianneWilliamson.com, MarianneForCongress.com, and take a look and support where you think it's going to be of the most help. Give where you get your good. Swamiji, you're very welcome. I'm very impressed, and I love your energy, and thank you for being part of this call. I appreciate you immensely. And Sadhvi, it's so nice to hear your voice again. You were just delightful, and I thank you for being a participant as well. Over to you, Barbara.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
And I can say one thing, congratulations. Wow, America is going to be good hands. Great.
That's for you,
Really,
Marianne.
I'm very impressed.
That's so
Very
beautiful.
impressed.
Thank you. Thank you for that
That's
blessing.
what is needed
Thank
today
you.
in the world.
Thank you, folks. Okay, next up, you're going to want to stay here on the call. The next panel is Catalyzing an Awakened World, and our guests will be Neil Donald Walsh, Joan Bursenko, Panache Desai, and this panel will be moderated by our co-convener of Global Oneness Day, Steve Farrell. So what we'd like to do now is take just about 10 seconds of silence to get back into the centered space of oneness and ready for the next panel. So thank you all for being here. Peace and blessings.